One of the things that is dear to me in worship is when the voices of our young people are heard. And so I want to thank their teacher, Jackie Ackerman, and all of you and your parents for getting them all here so that you can share your voices with us. It matters. And I don't know about you, but it's one of those moments when we feel our hearts strangely warmed as we hear the words of God coming from the voices of our children, our young adults. Well, as people who live on the Great Lakes, we in Lakeshore know the importance of lighthouses. A lighthouse lets those on the water know where there is danger and also where a harbor will be. On clear nights, the light reflects off the water and the sky for miles so that those on the water can see that welcome light. And while the light reflects well on clear nights, the light from the lighthouse gets lost in the fog. Rather than reflecting outwards for miles, the fog causes the light to glare back at the lighthouse. It's like driving in the fog. Have you ever driven in a deep fog and thought, I'll just put on my brights, I'll be able to see then? That does not work. The light just comes back and glares right in our eyes. Well, reflection or glare depends on whether the night is clear or full of fog. Today we celebrate the transfiguration of Jesus. Jesus took Peter, James, and John to the top of the mountain, and there the light of God shone through Jesus and reflected the presence of God to those three followers. And they saw the light of God and believed that Jesus really was the Christ, that God had come to live with them. But as the light of God reflected onto those three followers, it ran into fog. Because in that moment, Peter had the opportunity to let the light of God that he saw in Jesus reflect in and through his own life. In that moment, Peter could have said, Jesus, I get it. You're the light of God, and you've come to shine in and through me. And from this moment on, I dedicate my life to sharing that light you are shining on me with others. I will spend the rest of my life reflecting your light onto those I meet. But Peter didn't say that. And instead, true to form, he said, wow, it's really good that we're here to see all this. And in fact, it's so good, we're going to build monuments to this moment. And in there, right there, in the cornerstone, we're going to put Peter, James, and John saw Jesus. Whoa. Rather than reflect the light of Jesus to others, Peter decided to let that light turn into a glare that shone back on him and on James and on John. Rather than to reflect Jesus' light to others, Peter let the light of Jesus turn into a glare that blinded him. Rather than sharing the light of God to others by reflecting Jesus' light to others, Peter simply basked in the glow of the light, the glare coming back on himself. Well, reflection or glare is what Paul was talking about in his letter to Corinthians. The church in Corinth, well, it was in trouble. The congregation was embroiled in deep internal arguments, and the members were so involved with arguing with one another that the light of Christ was getting lost in the glare. Rather than focus on sharing God's light with others, each person and each faction turned the light of God on themselves so that others could see how very right they were and how very wrong the others were. Because they figured the brighter the light was on themselves, the more right they had to be. Well, the problem with that is each person and each faction was shrouded in fog. They were so concerned with turning the light of God upon themselves, they forgot their mission. And their mission, like Lakeshore's, was to expand their ministry to Manitowoc County and beyond, making new disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. All right, I'll agree that the church in Corinth had no clue that Manitowoc County existed. But you get my idea. The point is, as followers of Jesus, we can turn the light of God we know from Jesus toward others, or we can let it reflect on ourselves in a wonderful glare. We can reflect the light of God to others in the world, or we can enjoy the glare coming back on ourselves. We can focus on what God is doing just for us, or we can focus that light on what God can do for others. We can reflect God's light to others, or we can simply build a monument to ourselves in the fog and enjoy the glare coming back at us. Well, almost 30 years ago, the Lutheran denomination conducted a study, because it was about 30 years ago that mainline denominations noticed a great increase in the number of churches that were being closed due to declining membership and financial strain. And it was the Lutherans who were the first to ask, why are so many churches closing? Is there a sign that we can look for that lets us know that they're in trouble? Maybe then we can intervene. Maybe we can do something about this. And the study revealed that churches who decided they needed to take care of themselves before they cared for anyone else were churches in trouble. In fact, from the first time the leadership said, we need to take care of ourselves, to the point where they closed, was an average of 5 years. 5 years. The moment the churches decided to let the light of Christ shine on themselves, rather than reflect that light to others, was the moment those congregations set a course for closing. Well, fortunately, from our beginning, Lakeshore Church has made the decision to let the light of Christ reflect through us onto others, rather than let the light glare back at us. We've had a commitment, and we've made that commitment to our local communities, and we've followed through with that commitment to the nation and the world. And we've honored that commitment with our time and our abilities and our money. And many of you have heard me celebrate the progress that we have made as a congregation. After years of deep financial strain, we're getting back in balance. In fact, last year, Lakeshore was able to balance its budget. We did so, however, by withholding our connectional giving. 3/5 of our connectional giving, traditionally called apportionments, goes to support the missions and ministries of the United Methodist Church in our nation and around the world. And last year, the amount that we were supposed to give to support national and global missions around the world would have been $35,000. And that's a lot of light that we did not shine onto others. That's a lot of light that we let glare back at us. That means last year, while we let God's light shine in our community, and we did very little to help God's light shine in our world and our nation. And I will admit, I'll be the first to admit, I was more than okay with that, because we had to get our spending, we had to get our giving back on track. This year, however, our budget is lean, but it is very effective. The budget is set to support the programs and ministries that we previously could not support, and that's a good and wonderful thing. However, if we do not support our connectional giving this year, we will have made a significant decision to think about ourselves before we think about others. And the first time we decide as a congregation to think about ourselves to the exclusion of thinking about others is a huge warning flag. We know the importance of letting the light of the lighthouse shine out onto the water. And we know the importance of letting God's light reflect through us toward others, which is why next Sunday, the finance team and I have decided to make it a Sunday of special gifts that will go to support the national and global missions of the portion of our connectional giving. Next Sunday, we're going to take a special offering, in addition to our regular offering, because we still have to live here, but a special offering in addition to our regular offering that will be dedicated in its entirety to our connectional giving, and the portion of our connectional giving that goes to missions and ministries throughout this nation and throughout the world. You see, Transfiguration Sunday celebrates the day that the light of God shone through Jesus onto those first followers. And rather than reflect the light onto others, Peter suggested that they build monuments so that they could bask in the glare. The congregation in Corinth knew as long as they argued amongst themselves, they could be happy to just sit in the glare of God's light. Well, you're getting a letter from me this week. It's going to talk some more about what connectional giving is, what apportionments are. It's going to talk about the importance of them. It's a short letter, but I invite you to read it. And there's a special envelope that's included. I invite you to join me in prayerfully considering how generous we can be toward our connectional giving. I don't suspect we're going to fulfill it all next Sunday, but it's a good jump start toward remembering it's not just about us. It's not just about Lakeshore, but it's about Manitowoc County. It's about the state of Wisconsin. It's about our nation. It's about our world. That the light of God has come to shine not just upon us, but in us, and through us. For we're called to expand our ministry to Manitowoc County and way, way beyond.